Hey guys, welcome to the Daily Word Bible Study, a plain and simple book by book, chapter by chapter, and verse by verse study through the entire Bible. Currently, we are in Jeremiah chapter 25. So we're at now the throes of death. In other words, the destruction has come. Nebuchadnezzar, the prophecy, the decree that God spoke. Um, that he said he would bring disaster from the north, which is the Babylonian Empire led by Nebuchadnezzar, has come. And now what we're going to see is the fall of Jerusalem in a most gruesome way. So I want to jump right in because I read verses 1 through 11 again. I'm going to go through them again. A couple of things I want to bring out. Um, in terms of a timeline, and then we will see, because Jeremiah will give us a little more details about the fall. So it says again, this is the word that came to Jeremiah concerning all of the people of Judah in the 4th year of Jehoiakim, son of Josiah, king of Judah, which was the 1st year of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon. So we see this timeline. By the way, during this 1st year is when I believe Daniel is deported. Actually, it would be, I think, Daniel and Ezekiel. And then he said, verse 2, the prophet Jeremiah spoke concerning all the people of Judah and all the residents of Jerusalem as follows from the 13th year of Josiah, son of Ammon, king of Judah, until this very day, 23 years. So again, remember we said at the beginning of the book of Jeremiah, there's a 23-year span. In other words, he has been warning people for the last 23 years, and they've just kind of ignored him. He says, the word of the Lord has come to me, and I've spoken to you time and time again, but you have not obeyed. The Lord sent all his servants, the prophets, to you time and time again, but you have not obeyed or even paid attention. And this is important because people forget when God is judging, and he's always known as the God of wrath, the Old Testament, that God of the Old Testament. Well, what they forget is the God of the Old Testament is more merciful than he is vengeful. Because notice, just in Jeremiah's time, Jeremiah has been prophesying, warning people for 23 years. And then he says, before that, you had the prophets. So remember, Isaiah preceded Jeremiah. And then all of the most of the minor prophets around the time of Jeremiah, right, have been prophesying that this is coming, that this time is coming. Verse 6, verse 5, he announced, turn each of you from your evil way of life and from your evil deeds. Live in the land the Lord gave to you and your ancestors long ago forever. Do not follow other gods or serve them and to worship them. Do not provoke me to anger by the works of your hands. Then I will do you no harm, but you will not obey me. So that's always Israel's byline. But you will not obey me. This is the Lord's declaration, in order that you might provoke me to anger by the work of your hands to bring disaster on yourselves. Therefore, this is what the Lord of hosts says, because you have not obeyed my words, I am going to send for all the families of the north. This is the Lord's declaration. Send for my servant Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, and I will bring them against this land, against its residents, and against all these surrounding nations. And I will completely destroy them and make them a desolation, a derision, and a ruin forever. I will eliminate the sound of joy and gladness from them, the voice of the groom and bridegroom, the sound of the millstone and the light of the Lamb, this whole land will become a desolate ruin, and these nations will serve the king of Babylon for 70 years. Now, for the past few sessions, I've been talking about the 70-year rule, the 70-year, the 70, well, not the rule, but the 70-year exile, which is kind of interesting because 70 years from now, Daniel would read this very prophecy and then discover the exile is going to be up. Okay. And so one of the things I wanted to point out and I want to emphasize again is the prophecy is for real, that what we're reading is a historical document of historical events that have come to pass. So Jeremiah precedes Daniel's timeline for about 70 years. So here we see this prophecy, 70 years, and then we see that as for the next 70 years, then the kingdom will pass from Babylon to the Mede and Persian, and then King Cyrus will issue the decree to go and restore and rebuild Jerusalem. So this is, again, when we say the prophecies adds to strengthening our faith. So I want to say that. All right. The exile, and then later he's going to tell you why 70 years. Okay, why 70? Very interesting, but why 70 years? Okay. So verse 12 says, "And when the 70 years are complete, I will punish the king of Babylon and that nation. This is the Lord's declaration, the Lord of the Chaldeans, for their guilt, and I will make them a ruin forever." So I forget which prophet it was that one time even said this, that Lord, you're using nations more wicked than we are to punish us. Well, here's the response to that. He will. God will punish Babylon, the Medes and the Persians, all of the kingdoms, all of the wickedness of the world. As if you want to ask the question, why would God use wickedness? One of the things we overestimate in terms of how God views us. And I think this is important because I think we should understand this, that when God comes to the table and looks at all of his creation, it's all corrupt. So like if I was to say, this scissors, this here, my glasses, this marker, and this pen. Okay. Now, if I say now, which of these, and I'm looking at hypothetically, right? Figuratively, whatever you want to say, that if God is kind of evaluating this from that, which of those instruments would I use? And let's say from God's perspective, well, they're all corrupt. They're all evil. And that's the point I wanted to make. They're all evil. And so God can use his creation as he pleases. And that's the point. Verse 13, I will bring on that land all my words I've spoken against it, all that is written in this book that Jeremiah prophesied against all the nations. Now, if you go back and look at the prophecies, especially of the what's called the major prophets, you will see God speaking prophecies against Israel, about Israel, and then you will see God speaking prophecies against every nation surrounding Israel. So we see it in Jeremiah, we see it in Isaiah, we're going to see it in Ezekiel. Okay. So he says, for many nations and great kings will enslave them, and I will repay them according to their deeds and the work of their hands. So God, judgment is coming to all. Okay, it's coming to all. Verse 15. This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, said to me: take this cup of wine of wrath from my hand, and make all nations I'm sending you to drink it. Now, this is a kind of a symbolism, the cup of wrath. When he said, take this cup of wrath, right? The symbolism. Now, we see this in other portions of prophecy. For example, the book of Revelations, you see the same kind of imagery here. God's wrath, okay? Verse 16, they will drink, stagger, and go out of their minds because of the sword I am sending among them. So I took the cup from the Lord's hand and made all nations drink from it, everyone the Lord sent me to. These included Jerusalem. Now it's kind of interesting that Jeremiah makes this kind of trip here. Jerusalem and the other cities of Judah, its kings and its officials, to make them desolate and ruined, an object of scorn and cursing as it is this day. Pharaoh, king of Egypt, his officers, his leaders, all his people, and all of the mixed people, all kings of the land of Uz, all the kings of the land of Philistine, Ekron, Gazer, Ekron, and the remnants of Ashdod, Edom, Moab, Amorites, all the kings of Tyre, all the kings of Sidon, the kings of the coastland areas, the coastland across the sea, Deban, Tema, Buz, all of those who shaved their temples, all the kings of Arabia, all the kings of the mixed people who have settled in the desert, all the kings of Zimri, all the kings of Elam, all the kings of Media, all the kings of the north, both near and far from one another, that is, all the kingdoms of the world which are on the face of the earth. Finally, the king of Shishak will drink after them. So in other words, they're all going to drink of the cup of God's wrath. Okay? They're going to drink of the cup of God's wrath. Then you ought to say to them, this is what the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, says: drink, get drunk, and vomit. Fall down and never get up again as a result of the sword I am sending among you. If these refuse to take the cup from you and drink, you ought to say to them, this is the Lord of hosts says, you must drink, for I am already bringing disasters on the cities that bear my name. So how could you possibly go unpunished? And you will not go unpunished, for I am summoning the sword against all the inhabitants of the earth. This is the declaration of the Lord of hosts. Very interesting statement right here. He says, now don't think you're going to escape because I'm judging Israel, because I'm judging my own people. As Peter says, judgment begins with the house of the Lord. That's where it starts, and then it goes outwardly. But it's worse when it goes out. And one reason why is because the pagan nations are awful. Okay? Verse 30, as for you, you are to prophesy all these things to them and say to them, the Lord roars from heaven. He raises his voice from the holy dwellings. He roars loudly over his grazing land. He calls out with a shout like those who tread grapes against all the inhabitants of the earth. The turmoil reaches the ends of the earth because the Lord brings a case against the nation. He enters into judgment with all flesh. As for the wicked, he hands them over to the sword. This is the Lord's declaration. This is what the Lord of hosts says. Pay attention. Disaster spreads from nation to nation. A great storm is stirred up from the ends of the earth. Those slain by the Lord on that day will be spread from one end of the earth to the other. They will not be mourned, gathered, or buried. They will be like manure on the surface of the ground. Wail, you shepherds, and cry out. Roll in the dust, you leaders of the flock, because the days of your slaughter have come. You will fall and become shattered like the precious vase. Flight will be impossible for the shepherds, and escape for the leaders of the flock. Hear the sound of the shepherd's cry, the wail of the leaders of the flock, for the Lord is destroying their pastures. Peaceful grazing land will become lifeless because the Lord's burning anger. He has left Uh, let me remember. He has left his den like a lion, for their land has become a desolate because of the sword of the oppressor, because of his burning anger. Now, what is interesting, this is just kind of the beginning, but what is interesting here is because most of the attention is focused on Israel, we don't see a lot of the destruction that came to the surrounding nations of Israel. Notice God says, though, it is coming. That it is coming. Uh, let's see. Okay. All right. Let me see here. I'm going to go back to someone I thought I missed here. Um, okay. I want to show you a timeline before I close out here. I think it was in chapter 24, but just to kind of show you kind of where we are right now as for the timeline. So right now, and this is the chart. Again, this is just a kind of a chart, but the chart of Israel. So you see the name Jehoiakim, and then you see this name Jehoiachim, and then Zedekiah. These three kings here are at the beginning of the fall of Jerusalem, ending with Zedekiah. Okay. So just to kind of show you, Jehoiakim exiled about 597, and I think I read that taught it in chapter 25. Let me see if I can go back there. Yeah, so remember in 24 he says Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, deported Jeconiah, son of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, and the officials, and all the craftsmen, right, from Jerusalem. So the leaders, the craftsmen, he deported them to Israel. We see this right around this time here. See, about 601 BC, and then the fall of Jerusalem is let's see, the fall of Jerusalem is about 586. Okay, let's bring this up here. The fall of Jerusalem is about 586 BC. Here's my point. Okay, this is a short time period. So all this going on right now is Nebuchadnezzar is beginning his invasion and destruction. That's the point I want. I know I went all the way around the world for that, but so it's going to be kind of a gruesome time, because what God is going to give us is sort of a little insight to when these kind of prophecies come to pass. Now, sometimes you see people prophesying about the destruction of the United States, and there's no comparison. Most of the time they're just wrong, because there's no comparison. But in this case, you see when this destruction began to happen, and we're not through with it. So we'll pick it up in the next study. All right, guys, don't forget to like and share this video and subscribe to BP, the Bible Perspective. And as always, if you have a thought or comment, add it to the comment section below. All comments are welcome. Till next time, I'll see you in the next study.